about Marcus. Tell me what you think about Christ. Who made their sacrifice now. Tell me what you think about equal rights for all, everywhere. Say what you think, what you think, what you think, what you think about justice. What you know, what you know, what you know, what you know about love. Why all the segregation, all are but one nation. Oh, let us unite as one. Let us unite as one. Tell me what you know about love. Tell me what you know about hate that keeps us separated. Tell me what you think about equal rights for all in every way. Say what you think, what you think, what you think, what you think about justice. What you know, what you know, what you know, what you know about love. Why all the segregation? We all are but one nation. Oh, let us unite as one. Let us unite as one. Oh, love. So many can testify. Oh, love. But you still can't satisfy. You keep on praying. You wish that day would come when there'll be equal rights and justice for every man.
Good morning to everyone and welcome back to Policing With You. I am your host, Charmaine O'Dane. With me this morning, I have a representative from the Ministry of Education. I'll have her introduce herself to the listening and viewing audience.
Good morning, listeners. My name is Dr. Tricia Esdale. I am the Senior Assistant Secretary within the Ministry of Education.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Esdale. This morning, we're going to basically speak about how does education fit in with fighting crime. So this morning, Ms. Esdale, can you explain to me and to the listening audience the Ministry of Education vision to relate to shaping the responsibility and being proactive to our future leaders?
Well, within education, I think it's self-explanatory. Our mandate is to educate. And so when we look at the education sector and we think about young people and we think about our community, we focus on how we help young people to develop into productive citizens who can meaningfully engage with their communities and who are lifelong learners who contribute. So our programming, our schools, our curriculum is all focused on giving students the necessary skills to succeed in the future. And we do that both through academic development, but also through social and personal development as well.
Thank you so much. Why do you believe that education plays one of the key roles in preventing crime?
Well, I think that education is certainly a force that is preventative in nature if we want to look at an issue like crime. Certainly we don't solve crime. We don't solve crime. But what we can do is we can help students to develop the kind of values and the moral compass that would help them make critical decisions in their lives that lead them away from the path of choosing to engage in behaviors that potentially harm themselves or harm others.
Thank you so much for that, because for me, even though as a mother you don't get directions when a baby is birthed as to what to follow, but persons have their perspective onto how to mother or how to parent this child. So in everything that we do, we need to be educated about how does access to quality education reduce the livelihood of a young person becoming involved in criminal activity?
Well, there's been a lot of research globally, regionally, that looks at education outcomes. We know that students that are meaningfully engaged in education are more likely to pursue post-school either further education or meaningful employment. And that is often because they would have the required skills and background through their study in school to make those next steps successfully. So when students are meaningfully engaged in schools, they're able to transition into adulthood well. The struggle comes when students, for whatever reason, don't access all the resources that are available in schools. And I point to access because there is a choice. There are programs available in school, both academic and co-curricular, that support the student. But if a student chooses not to access those resources, if the parent chooses to reject the school's offer of assistance and guidance in supporting their students, then that means that student may miss the opportunity to fully engage, and then they miss the opportunity to fully develop the skills that they need, whether they're academic skills in terms of, earning, a school leaving certificate, whether it's earning CXC, subjects, so that they can seek employment or go on to higher education, or whether it's just learning certain social skills, like how to communicate effectively, how to problem solve, how to engage with other persons. And that allows them to be, employed and interact with the public successfully for their employer and do their job well. So whether it's, higher education or just employment or just typical interactions with the public, there's skills that you need. And in order to gain them, you must be willing to participate. Yeah.
Yes. What stand out for me, you said access is available. Choices. Reject, if parents reject or students reject to choose these things that can build them. Opportunity.
Yeah.
It is important and for us to understand the level that we have and have the availability that we have in St. Kitts when it comes to educating our children, not only for higher learning but also for meaningful jobs. Thank you so much, Ms. Esdale, for that. What are some of the specific programs? You spoke about access to different programs or initiatives within the education system that focus on character building, discipline, and social responsibility.
Okay. So I'll start with curriculum matters. So within St. Kitts and Nevis, we do have, within our both primary and secondary schools, we have HFLE, which is a regional program, Health and Family Life Education, which has been delivered in St. Kitts for many, many, many years. It's often delivered by our teachers within the school system, so HFLE teachers support that instruction at the secondary level. At the primary level, it's supported by our guidance counselors, our classroom teachers, and it's also supported somewhat by our guidance counselors in the secondary school to a lesser extent. Our guidance counselors themselves offer a program of both intervention services, so that would be things like individual or group counseling or special programs for at-risk students. But they also do what's known as classroom guidance, where they go in a whole class fashion, so it's a global program, and they lead students through a whole series of engagements that help them to kind of focus the kind of values and skills that you're speaking to here. Beyond those, we also have, as part of our formal curriculum, health and wellness, which is part of the ministry's efforts to engage in the curriculum enhancement. Nationally, we've been working on that for a few years, and health and wellness is an evolution of what was formerly just our health curriculum. It looks at promoting both health literacy and physical literacy. So those are some of the more curriculum-based things and some of the supports that we have through our guidance and counseling programming. We also have engagements with community partners.
Thank you so much. Yes. Are there any early intervention strategies in the schools for students who may be at risk of criminal activities?
Right. So when we look at children in the early years, we don't tend to think too much about future criminal activities, not from an education perspective. I can understand that one might from a policing perspective, but from an education perspective, what we look at is how well does a student function? Okay? How well are they doing emotionally, socially? And of course academically, because of course,
Right.
it's education. But we look at how do they function in the classroom? How do they relate to their peers? How do they respond to figures of authority like their teachers, their principal? And what we look at are the students who struggle. The students who struggle to respect authority, the students who struggle to get along with their peers, either because they engage in conflict or bullying behavior. So these are the things that we pay attention to. And when we know that, we engage the services of our guidance counselors.
Okay.
We have guidance counselors in every school in St. Kitts and Nevis, and they provide the intervention services for young children who show those early signs of needing, extra support.
Well, thank you so much. I think sometime back they had guidance counselors being shared between schools. Is that still happening, or is there a guidance counselor assigned at the particular school?
Right. So to a lesser extent, we do have that to some degree. So in St. Kitts and Nevis, if you look across our island, our schools, they vary in terms of size and population. So all of our largest schools have their own dedicated counselor, both at the primary and at the secondary level. So large primary schools, I would say like Tucker Clark or Beach Island or Sandy Point Primary, they would have their own dedicated counselor. But a small school, say like Newton Ground Primary, might share a counselor. But no counselor has more than 2 schools. That way they're able to see their schools and visit their schools multiple times a week.
Okay, and I see the councils were doing a lot in the past years. They're doing a lot of different activities, to grab the children, them attention, to divert them from certain behavior. I see the work of the guidance counselors. Even in my son's school, I see the effort that is being made there to complement what you were saying this morning. How does the curriculum address topics such as conflict resolution, peer pressure, and decision making?
Okay, so those are themes that come up in our health and wellness and in our HFLE instruction. So I think you would have mentioned something like decision making. That would be under one of the core life skills that we are developing. I ought to say that beyond these curriculum initiatives, the Ministry of Education is looking to pilot a new life skills program this coming September that takes a more holistic approach and tries to take all of the different programs and interventions that we have and bring it under one common framework that looks at life skill development. What are those critical skills that children need? So that would be like conflict resolution, decision making, communication, and really looking at what the cross-cutting themes are and organizing it in such a way that schools are more efficient in delivering those services.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds good. How are teachers, and we spoke about earlier about the observation that of the student that might be acting out a bit and displaying certain behavior in order for you guys to deal with it at the early stage. How are teachers and school counselors trained to identify and support students who may be facing challenges, whether at home or in the community or even at school?
All right. So I'll start with our counselors. For them, it's embedded in their training. Most of our school counselors have degrees at either the bachelor's level or the MA level, with the majority of our counselors, I think, at this point, leaning towards having the, study at the MA level. And so many of them have backgrounds in counseling psychology and related fields. So they're very well equipped in terms of their educational background and training. And then when they join the Ministry of Education, they're supported by a coordinator for guidance and counseling who provides that support and that guidance and who helps with capacity development and professional development for our guidance counselors. So they receive regular training in that regard. For our teachers, I do have to say that we do focus heavily on the pedagogical skills, so development of the skills in terms of lesson delivery and lesson planning and assessment when it comes to the core subject areas, But we do also focus on teachers being able to identify when students are in need of intervention. And we've had several workshops and capacity building opportunities for our teachers around that. I will say that as part of our new curriculum enhancement process, one of the things that we focused on was something called, that we refer to as Know Your Student. And it's an exercise and an activity where teachers are meant to, at the start of the school year, make a concerted effort to learn who all of the students in their classroom, who they are. What are their strengths? What are their interests? What are the things that, socially, academically, they're going to need to work on to enhance in that student? So what's an area for growth for that student? And for each child, they're supposed to create a profile. Now, if a teacher engages in that process, what's going to happen? They're going to notice things like, this child does not play well with others. This child does not, follow instruction. So all of those things, those early warning signs or concerns, they get picked up through that process. We also have engaged our teachers and have had lots of training on special education needs, because not all of our children's needs are just social and behavioral.
Right.
And even when they are, they can mask undiagnosed learning or developmental disabilities or delays. And so we've given teachers our training in those areas as well. And they're further supported at the ministry level by a student support services officer who comes in and makes observations and does assessments and helps the teacher and the family to create intervention plans for how to support that student in the classroom.
Miss Esdale, you have me excited. It seems I need to change my profession. Okay, we're going to break shortly, pay some bills, and when we come back, we're going to take a few calls. GQ, over to you.
Make moves this May with the Cable. Join the Cable family and get faster, stronger, better internet for less. Sign up now to enjoy speeds of up to 200 megabits per second for only $97. That's speed you can count on for a price that can't be beat. Seamless streaming, gaming, or working from home. Plus, no installation charges, no down payment, no surprise fees, and best of all, no contracts that feel never ending. But hurry, premium internet at pocket-friendly prices won't last forever. Make the smart move this May and switch to better connections. Sign up today at thecable.net or call now 465-2488 for more info. The Cable, more where it matters. Offer ends May 31st. Terms and conditions apply.
Why don't you make that move?
It's a grand Easter and summer sale at Smarten Island Electronics. From now until the end of summer, we're giving you up to 25% off store-wide with special deals on AC units, fans, and refrigerators. Shop now and enjoy great deals and huge savings. We have 3 locations: Smart Electronics Bonzonte, Island Electronics 4th Street, and Smart Electronics opposite Value Mart in Charleston, Nevis. Terms and conditions apply. See in stores for details.
The specials at Domino's are hot, hot, hot for any occasion. Hot right out of the oven. 1 medium, 2 topping pizza, and 2 20-ounce Cokes, only $35. Free Coke with your lunch until 2 p.m. Small, 1 topping school child lunch special, only $14. 2 medium, 2 topping pizzas, and a 2-liter soda, only $69. 2 large, 2 topping pizzas, and a 2-liter soda, only $92. Oh, and the big one, baby. Free large pizza every Tuesday with your favorite 2 for Tuesday special. So, come on down or call and order now and experience our tasty oven-baked goodness. Domino's, the home of satisfaction.
Hot and wild, call Domino's. Now.
All
Cars and trains, boats and planes are heading straight to St. Kitts from June 26th to June 28th for the 2025 St. Kitts Music Festival. Featuring Young Brother, Kes the Bad, Shensia, Toujours, Barrington Levy, Patrice Roberts, Spice, Romaine Vogo, Ira Star, Jennifer Hudson, and the world boss himself, Vibes Cartel, and much, much more. Get your tickets now at stkitsmusicfestival.com. The 2025 St. Kitts Music Festival, June 26th to June 28th, where music meets paradise.
Oh, yo. I'm way. Oh, yo.
Good morning to everyone in Radio Land. With me this morning, I have Miss Esdale from the Ministry of Education. She has given us a lot, a mouthful to go with as to the work, what the ministry is doing in order to embrace our future leaders' future. And I must applaud the effort, because I am so excited with the things that I am hearing, especially as a mother of a young man, and to see what is out there, what is offered to our children, what is in place for our children. So I want to thank you very much, Ms. Esdale, for accepting my invitation, because you're also giving me a lot to go with as a parent. The lines will be open for calls if you have any questions when it comes to education. Okay, we have a call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. You lost that call? Yeah. Okay, caller, you can call back. We'll continue with our questioning from Mrs. Dale. Collaboration and community engagement when it comes to the Ministry of Education. Do you guys... how do you guys partner or collaborate with law enforcement or community organization on crime prevention program within the schools?
Okay. Well, we've collaborated in various ways over the years. Currently, within our secondary schools, we have the TAPS program. And we've had quite a bit of success with the TAPS program. Most of the students who participate successfully complete and have positive outcomes. And we find that program, which really, is aimed at improving the relationship between, teens and law enforcement, is a meaningful one. We do want our young people to see law enforcement as a potential resource, and rather than as, an adversarial force. So we think that program does have some positive impact in our schools. Another initiative that we've had is that we have school liaison officers that work with our schools, and our school liaison officers, they engage our schools. They come in, they patrol the areas, but they also work with, the administration. And sometimes if necessary, they get involved in student matters. So liaison officers serve our schools in different ways. So that's one of the two ways in which, we've interacted, I think, quite successfully with our police services here. Some of the other things that we do in terms of other community groups, we've worked with we have our drug abuse and prevention program. Mm-hmm. Yes, I was trying to remember. Mm-hmm. It's called Living Above the Influence. It's something that's delivered at the primary level. It targets fourth graders. And that course has been offered through our National Drug Abuse and Prevention Secretariat. Mm-hmm. So it's their program, and we've basically just been the environment in which they deliver it. Through the pilot of the Life Skills program that I told you about, one of the things that we're going to be doing is looking to expand the reach of that program. Mm-hmm. We're hoping to work with them to actually train our fourth grade teachers to deliver the program. Previously, they've sort of delivered it and selected certain schools, but we want to make it global. We want to make it something that all fourth graders can have access to. So, that's one of the ways in which our Life Skills program, when we talk about kind of creating an umbrella framework for all of the things that we do, how it will function. It will look at existing programs and look at how we can enhance them, and in some cases, it will introduce new programming.
Thank you so much. Yes, and we also have the Magic program in the
primary schools.
Primary school as
Absolutely.
well. Yes, the Teens and Police was reintroduced in February of this year, and I'm actually the person in charge of that team, the National Intervention Team, and what was amazing when you see children who was not identified to be a part of Teens and Police, and then they go to the teachers and ask them if they can be a part of it, and that is applaudable when it comes to bridging that gap and seeing that young children wants to be a part of our initiative. We have a call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. I'm not hearing you clearly, caller. Caller, you'll have to call back. We're not hearing you clearly. There's a lot of interference on your end. Okay, so we'll continue. How can the schools and the community work together in order to create safe environment for our students both inside and outside of the communities or the classroom, sorry?
You know what? That's always a challenging question. and I'll say this. It's a challenging question because if you think about it, right? Communities are really a collection of families.
Right.
So if we're talking about communities, then you kind of have to go back to the family and then work back out to what becomes the community. And of course, the schools are embedded in a community themselves. One of the things that we say is that certainly, our schools, they try to reach out. All of our schools try to reach out and engage their community, and they do it in different ways. And so I would ask that persons within the community who have an interest in young people to engage their schools, to offer up their time and their services if they're so willing, because it is a commitment. I always say if you're going to make a commitment to engage a young person, to be a part of a young person's life, then you take that commitment seriously. It's not something that you want to begin and then abandon.
Right.
Because there's a young person involved, with a heart and a mind, and they feel the loss of adults. So we want people who are committed, who really are invested, and who are willing to put in the time and the work to engage their schools. In terms of our families, we want our families to engage more with our schools. When our schools, ask you to come out, when we ask you for support, when we ask you to attend that PTA, when we ask you to engage the children at home, to actually do it. As a mother, I do know what it's like to come home at the end of the day, and you just want a moment to yourself.
Yep. I know.
The last thing you want to do is sit down and engage. But that's exactly what you have to do. Sometimes you have to act in exactly the opposite of what it is you want, because it's what's best for your child and what's best for your family. So we do need parents to engage and to realize that the work of the school doesn't end when the children leave school. It extends into the home, into the homework period. It's not just about exams either. And it's not just about the graduation periods when they leave preschool or when they leave 6th grade or when they're in 5th form. It's the entire process.
Yes, I remember my years with my children in high school, and they had to study for exam. The last was in 2016 with my son, and to be honest, I never did technical drawing, and he wouldn't believe I don't know a thing about technical drawing, but whatever question I YouTube, and I look to see what he's doing, and then I compare it to what I saw on YouTube. And yes.
Exactly.
It doesn't end with the teachers. We have our part to do. Even if you don't understand, once you be consistent with the children, bringing that book to you. They know that, I have to write, I have to be attentive in school, I have to be involved in school because mommy gonna check my books later, and that is important. Yes, I guess you kind of went on my question when it comes to collaboration and community engagement. With what role can the parent enforce with positive value learning at school? I think you went on and said a bit. Youth empowerment and alternatives to crime. Are there sufficient opportunities for the youth development through extracurriculum activities, vocational training, or mentorship in the schools?
I would say that in every school we have clubs. In schools we have mentorship programs, and we have opportunities for vocational training. So they exist. Again, I think it's a question of access and interest. Access and interest. Now, if I speak to principals, a lot of my principals will say, I want more clubs. I'll agree. You know, clubs are a good thing, and you want more because you understand that different children have different interests, right? So you want diversity, you want richness in the offerings. So they have opportunities. I think we could have more, and this is where we have to look at also, I think, how our clubs operate, and I think this is a part for the community engagement, because the reality is that school ends at 3:30.
Right.
But most adults are still working, all right? So Monday through Friday, if we're talking about clubs, we really are talking about clubs that are often either going to need to be coordinated or supervised by a teacher or student-led. One of the things that we're looking at under our Life Skills program is bringing back a club system that is student-led but teacher sort of supervised. So what that means is that the students have to have a teacher as part of their club who does oversight, who does monitoring, who does supervision. But when the club meetings are held after school during the week, it doesn't require the adult, right? But that means, of course, we have to do the student leadership, so we can have student leaders who can be club leaders, who can be effective, positive, social models for their peers. But we want to bring back a club system that supports student leaders of the clubs with just a bit of adult oversight, where the children lead on developing what activities are going to be and the kinds of things that they do.
I'm interested to see that come back, because it also brings out the leadership in our future children for their future, and also prepare them for whether a better sustainable job or further education, because when they go out there, community service is also important when they go out to study as well. Thank you so much. How does education provide alternative and pathway to success for students who may otherwise be vulnerable to gang involvement or antisocial behavior?
For students who are vulnerable to that, the primary intervention in schools is delivered through our guidance and counseling services. And we do that through individual counseling. We do that through referral to external programs if need be outside of education. We do that through connecting them with programs like TAPS or MAGIC. So we have different avenues that we utilize, and it's primarily coordinated by our guidance counselors. When we look at the academic side of things, sometimes our students who aren't meaningfully engaged aren't doing well academically. So we do try to have academic supports for students within schools. We have opportunities for assessment in terms of if there are any underlying learning disabilities that we can seek to address. Sometimes our students aren't engaged in schools because they're struggling to learn, but it's hidden. Right. You know, so we try to address that if that's an issue and to provide support. And then finally, in terms of academic pathways, the Ministry of Education, of course, would have made a policy decision quite a few years ago, you know, that all students do 5 years of secondary education. So that is something that we've mandated, and we're seeing more success with. The longer children are in school, the more opportunities they have to turn the trajectory of their life around. Right. We also have to understand that our secondary school kids are incredibly young. The average fifth former is 16, turning 17. It might be 17 by the time they leave in July, you know, depending on when their birthday falls. But they're really, really young. And I think we often expect them to make very adult decisions a little too early.
Right.
So we have to recognize that the longer we can keep them in school and the longer we can provide opportunities to support and guide the decisions, the better. And so we make sure that all students get that full 5 years of secondary education, irrespective of whether or not they're doing CXC examinations.
I supported that decision as well, to see, rather than letting them leave at fourth form, not going on to fifth form. I supported that initiative that you all started. I supported that, rather than, 'cause as you said, imagine at fourth form they're leaving school at fourth form.
Yeah.
They're even younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, so looking forward, what you spoke a lot in between, but I'd like you to say it again for those who just joining. What improvement or reforms would you like to see in education system to strengthen the role of crime prevention?
Could you say that again? Sorry.
What improvement or reforms would you like to see in the education system to strengthen the role of crime prevention?
Well, okay. So I'll start with issues related to security. So one, we do have security guards within our secondary schools, but I would like to see more concerted training for our security guards, maybe supported by our police services department, in aiding our security guards to be more effective. We currently have school liaison officers within schools. I would, in a perfect world, love to see our school liaison officers evolve into school resource officers. And school resource officers are police officers who work within the education sector and work within schools full-time. All right, so you would have a school, and it would have a school resource officer, and they're there every day as part of the staff, and they contribute meaningfully to the environment. So I would love to see our school liaison program evolve into that. Those are the top wish list items. In terms of some of our social programming, I would like to see more persons getting training in areas of special education within education, and persons might go, well, special education and crime, what's the link? As we've said, if students aren't meaningfully engaged, and for some of our students, their behavior mask a need.
Right.
And so more persons with a background in special education within our teaching force would be a great advantage for us, both in the ability to do assessment and to carry out interventions for students. So those are some of the things that I would like to see happening in the education sector.
I have noted my part when it comes to the training and school resources officers. That is one vision that I have as well, that my department can develop into that as well. Security training, I would send a report so that we can get this done even before September in training the security officers, I believe, and I've identified that early when I took over NIT and wrote a report, so I would just request it again to see how best we can work together to just better the environment space when it comes to our students at school. How can students themselves empower to contribute to culture of peace and safety within their school and their communities? Believe it or not, children do listen policing with you. Our students do
Right.
listen.
You know what? I think children can be a really powerful force for influencing the behavior of other children. We know this, for good or for bad. And so I really would like to see our young people take a more concerted effort to speak up when they see other students harming other students. I think for me that's the simplest point of intervention. And so I have to say, though, as we want children to step up and to speak up and to point out when something isn't right or when someone is being harmed, that means that we also have to speak to our parents.
Right.
Because I remember Yeah, I'll tell a little tale. So as a mother, I had a daughter, and she goes off to school. She's grown now, but when she went out, and you get into conflict, and I say, well, we don't hit other students, right? And Grandma said, they hit you, hit them back. And there we had a conflict, right? And so we have to think about the messaging of our parents when it comes to what they say to their children.
Yes.
Because if we want our children to be a force for good, then the parents have to sing from the same hymnal as us
That is true.
around their children being a force for good. When you see something that's wrong, speak up. Tell an adult. If somebody's bullying your friend, speak up on behalf of your friend. Don't join in. Don't be a part of the problem. Be a part of the solution.
That's right.
So I'd like to see our children do that more, but I recognize that our parents have a huge part to play in supporting our students in being that positive force.
Couldn't say better. Thank you so much. As we wrap up, your final message that you would like to share to the public, especially our young people, and the importance of education as a tool for building their future.
Right. Well, to our young people, I would just want to say to take advantage of all of the opportunities that they have available to them. For our students right now who are in school and who are thinking it's just a grind, right? I just have to get up and I have to go and I don't really want to be here. I want them to think about not where they are, but where they want to be. School can just be a means to an end, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Right.
You can think of school as a way to get you to where you want to be. And if where you want to be is, I want to be out of school and working, then you have to think about, well, what do I need to get that job, right?
Definitely.
And how can school help me get that? Okay, if you know that you want to go on to CFBC because you want to study nursing, then maybe you need to have a conversation with your guidance counselor. What classes do you need to be taking so that you'll be able to matriculate when you leave fifth form? So I would say to our students, take advantage of all of the resources that are there within the school. Within our schools, we have teachers who care and who care deeply. They're champions for our children. So whether it's your principal, whether it's your guidance counselor, whether it's your teacher, it could be your class teacher or a subject teacher or a year head. Trust me, there's a cheerleader in your school, somebody there willing to big you up, as they say, to cheer you on and to keep you on the right path. You only have to speak up and say, I want help. I want guidance. So my word to our students is make the most of the opportunity and the time you have in school to get where you want to be.
Thank you so much, Ms. Esdale, for accepting my invitation. Ministry of Education, I wish you guys all the best. GQ and ZIZ, thank you so much for having me. To you, the listening and viewing audience, thank you for tuning in to Policing With You. I am your host, Charmaine O'Dane. God bless.